All right. Good morning, folks. Welcome to our week 5 office hours, where we're really here to support you guys over the course of the summer through your SYP PBL projects. My name is Theo Phillips, Senior Director of Community Partnerships, and I'm joined by my colleagues.
Dennis Carter, Chief Program Officer, Youth Development Institute, Rampo for Children.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Mona Perfett, Program Director, Community Initiatives, Rampo for Children. Hi.
All right. So as I said before, what we've also tried to do to accommodate people, because we're listening to folks coming to office hours. So we do them in the morning for 1 hour, and then we have another one later this afternoon at 2 o'clock that goes from 2 to 3. So if you have some staff members that weren't able to join us this morning, but have some opportunities to join later, feel free to spread the link with them so that they can register. But before we get started and jump into the content, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions for us? How are things going? How are things going? We'd love to hear from y'all. How are things going? I made y'all smile a little bit. So either things are going real good or things are going so crazy that all you can do is smile about it. Talk to me. How's it going out there? I'd love to hear from y'all. Feel free to unmute yourself. Small group. You want me to pause the recording? Is that what you want?
Melissa's like, yo. Francesca has a poker face going.
Yeah, how's it going out there, folks? Just give me some feedback. You know,
I guess I'll go.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we can.
I'm Francesca. So for the most part, I feel like it's going all right. This is the second year we're using this curriculum. And so I feel like I kind of know the curriculum as best as I can. The way that my facilitators are implementing it are my biggest concerns, because the end product is next week, where we see how the kids are presenting their information. My only question, if I'm here next year, is kind of want to see how we can kind of differentiate it a little bit, because we have had some challenges with our students who have disabilities, who their reading and their writing is a lot lower level. And I feel like the curriculum is a little higher, too high for them. I wonder how we can meet them where they are. That's all.
Wow. Francesca, we are so glad to hear, you know, that comment. And to be honest, it's something that we all have wrestled with, right? Like, you know, how do you create something that is, you know, challenging enough for all young people, but at the same time doesn't preclude somebody from participating? And one of the things that we constantly talk about during our training is that this is a guided journey, right? It really is designed for the staff member to really figure out with their young people, once they get to know them, like what's appropriate. So we love hearing from facilitators, leaders, to really say, hey, we know that in order to do this, there's a level of getting to know my participant that I'm gonna have to do in order to really kind of like make this work for them. And that in and of itself is really half the battle, because everybody is going to accomplish what they can accomplish in their own time. But when you bring them back together as a group, that's where, you know, you get the opportunity to let those young people who have been able to advance have a role, and those young people that maybe some of it, the asynchronous part, you may need to, I don't want to say like water down, but maybe hold back is a better way of approaching it. So everybody ends up at the same point. So the artifact collection and all of that begins to really tell my journey, right? Because I got something different out of this. I may have built some skills based on where I'm at as a young person. So again, that's the beauty of PBL, that it is a group journey, but it is really something that targets appropriate learning environments that really allow young people to just participate at their own pace.
Does that make sense for you, Francesca? Yeah. I think one of the things we have to remember about PBL too, it's about the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about the journey. So if you have someone and you're dealing with kids who have special needs and so on and so forth, it's about their own journey. It's not about everyone having to arrive to a certain place. It's about what they're learning on that journey. So if you have someone who has special needs and so on and so forth, if you're meeting that student where they are, it's about what they're learning on their own journey as they learn it. There's no rush for them to get to a certain endpoint. It's about what the skills and the things that they're picking up along the way. So if they're speaking to their own personal journey along the way, it's about what they learned in particular, opposed to what another student may have learned. Does that make sense for you, Francesca?
Yeah, I was just taking notes as I was listening to that, because it's going to be something that I'm going to send out in a message to like the larger group that's not here, about the importance of understanding that while project-based learning is very much a group kind of journey, there's also a lot of individual growth that happens along that way. And there's no set endpoint as to where a young person should be by the end of this program. And that's something that I think folks need to hear sometimes, because if that young person picks up one skill, if that young person is able to finish and complete their resume that they didn't have at the start of the summer, we're moving the needle in the right direction. All right. Thank you for that, Francesca. Anybody else want to tell us how things are going? See how that just leads to great conversation? We've got stuff to talk about, but if y'all don't ask questions, we're just going to be on here for like 15 minutes and be like, okay, appreciate y'all, go about your day. But when you ask questions, it allows us to have more dialogue and dig in a little bit. So let us know, how are things going?
And thank you for that, Francesca.
Yeah, appreciate it. So one of the things we always try to remind folks about is things that, and you probably might be getting site visits from DYCD this week as they're trying to catch up on getting to your sites over the course of the summer. They might be doing, I don't know, are they doing virtual site visits with you guys? It's an interesting question. They are doing virtual site visits. I figured. So just a reminder that this 311 sign is something that should be present in your locations as part of your being DYCD site visit ready. So if you don't have this slide, add a slide to your deck. And if you need this, you can generally go on, Google it, and they'll give you a template for this. You can fill out your program name and program site and move forward like that. But this is just one of those things that we try to make sure we model. All right. If you've been with us since May, you've probably seen this slide 7 or 8 times. The intentionality behind what we do in our programs, in terms of how we design things and give young people and have clear vision of where we're going. It really does allow young people to experience our stuff organically. So we want to be really intentional, because that way we're able to go back and look at our plan and see what we need to switch up and change, especially if there is a next year, right? So if I'm here next year, what do I need to go back and look at from my very intentional plan from this year in order to finagle it to help maybe reach those young people that are having those learning challenges, right? Because I'm pretty sure young people had learning challenges last summer, right? But this summer you were a little more prepared and you were able to pick up on some of those learning challenges that you might not have been able to pick up on last year. So now going into year 3, you're like, okay, now I know that these young people are coming to this space with learning challenges. Now I need to adapt my plan, my very intentional plan from year 2, so that in year 3, I can start addressing those needs, right? That speaks to how being intentional in our planning and setting up our programs really does allow us to meet the needs of our young people. Right. Any questions about that, folks? Right. So this week, where are we this week? Week 5, right? A lot of folks are talking about this public product. I just want to go back to the importance of when we're talking about what we're collecting, and we'll get to artifacts in a second, but really being clear that this is about the journey, right? If y'all solved y'all's problem, wow, right? Let's get on the news. Call up New York 1, call up Brooklyn 12, Bronx 12, get them all on at your sites, wherever, because if you solved your problem, that's fabulous, right? But what we really want to make sure is that we're documenting what happened in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. That's what should be in your presentation, right? Pictures of going on trips, pictures of groups and young people showing relationships. Those are the types of things that should be demonstrated as well. Not just, we talked about, what could be something you guys talked about, environmental justice, and, how we need to have more, we experienced that week of heat. So we were like, oh, are we in a cement desert? Oh, I think we do live in one of these cement deserts they're talking about on the news, right? So just making sure we're not just talking about that topic, but we're also incorporating all the other things that they experienced over the course of the summer, because those are also the things you want young people to walk away with, right? Oh, right, we've been on this trip. We had a really good time at that trip. You know what? I want to go back to that place and see it another time because I'm interested in some of the career opportunities that might come up there. I want to know how I can work at that place, right? So those are the things we want to make sure are popping up in your presentations as well. All right. It's all about relationships, folks. Make sure that we're still doing those relationship building activities because we really do want and understand for y'all, right? Like when presentation starts to come up next week, right? Presentation is going to come up next week. And if the relationships aren't in place, young people are going to not show up, right? You're going to be like, yo, we told them to be here at this time, but we know they weren't getting along yesterday and we haven't really done enough around relationship building all summer long. They're not going to show up, right? So making sure that even this week, we're doing relationship building exercises. I cannot stress this enough. I went out to see some presentations last summer, and the facilitator decided he was going to do an icebreaker relationship building exercise with the young people just to get them loose. And they were like, why haven't we been doing this all summer? Right. So I just want to reiterate, the kids keep asking for these activities, right? PBL can't just be about the project. It also has to be about the interconnections and the relationships that we build with people, because that's also a very important work readiness skill. Even though I sit in these boxes and I talk on Zoom a lot during the day, my ability to know how to do things and build relationships keeps people connected and keeps people showing up to the things that I'm doing on Zoom, right? That's the same concept with your young people, right? The more you're spending time developing relationships, the more likely they are to show up on your Zooms and turn on their cameras. Yeah, I got you, Melissa, no problem. Tried to turn it off real quick. And then I mentioned that, turn it back on real quick. Right. So where should we be in this process? Always in this notion of engagement and developing relationships, but really at this place, we're taking action. At this point, all the investigation should have been done. We should be concluding and coming to some whatever conclusions we can come up with. But like I said, people will enjoy your presentation if they hear about the journey so much more rather than whatever crazy off the wall conclusion your group has come up to about the problem, right? I'm telling you, they'd much rather hear about how the group has grown, how much fun they've had together, than whatever they think that they've concluded at the end of these 6 weeks. Trust me, right? So it's really about making sure, because then people will be much more interested in what's going on, right? Because if they're hearing what the conclusion is and they really don't agree, they're going to shut down right off the bat. It's like, oh, well, well, I don't know what these kids are talking about, right? But if they're hearing about the journey, they're much more likely to be engaged, right? Any questions about what that looks like in presentation? Does anybody want to add anything on this side? I'm talking a lot. I know when I'm talking a lot.
You know when you're talking a lot, Leo.
I do.
I just want people to realize that journey could look so many different ways. Like, don't be afraid to think out the box, pictures, chart paper,
Videos.
poems, videos, voiceovers, the kids, pictures, drawings, whatever it is, take liberty as to how that looks, as long as it's the youth voice, but to, document that process, however that process may look, but let, the youth voice come out as far as how they want to express themselves as to what that journey looked like for them.
And just understanding that this is a documentation process as well. Like, so have kids film stuff, have kids take pictures of what's going on, because they're going to be caught up in doing everything else. And they're not going to think about, oh, this would be a great part of our project, right? That's part for y'all to kind of interject to them sometimes and remind them about those things. But you have to give them those roles. Y'all can't be the ones pulling out your phones, doing all the work around that, right? You have to give young people the roles in this process.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Artifact collection. Here's what I'll tell you not to do if you haven't done it already. Okay. Because I heard this come up in a presentation last summer. If you haven't done your resume workshop already, right? Don't take a whole day right now while young people are trying to complete their projects for you to be like, oh, we need to do resume writing. The kids will be like, we should have done this like 4 weeks ago when we weren't in the middle of producing this project, all right? If you haven't done it, think about an asynchronous way to get it done so that you're not eating up time that young people might be working on their project right now. They literally spazzed out on the facilitator during their presentation about the fact that they had to waste a whole day on resume writing when they were trying to finish their project, right? So I just say that there are a lot of things that I know you need to collect from young people. The DYCD is asking of you, and just to make their portfolios more robust so that when they leave this program, they actually are walking away with something that's really meaningful, and something that they can use in future employment opportunities, right? But making sure that you're spending time talking to them about, and we'll get to this in a second, right? That next week is it, right? Next week, that's the last week, right? There is nothing beyond that in terms of SYEP PBL, right? You all might have these young people that are going to be in your programs and you'll see them again, start of the school year, whatever it might be. But in terms of this, and we'll talk about what that looks like, really being clear to young people, next week, thing is it. Let's try to get all the things we need to get done and in by this Friday. That way we're not chasing down kids next week, right? Because that's going to be really, really difficult. Because like I said, some young people, especially those that don't care about this presentation, aren't going to be here next week. Some kids whose parents don't care about whether they present next week are like, we're leaving to go to South Carolina next week. We're out. Mm-hmm. So do all the document collections you can do this week as much as possible. All right. I see y'all nodding your heads in agreement because listen, y'all, we have done this before. I'm not speaking about I'm not here talking about SYEP because I've never done it before, right? My first job in this world was as an SYEP site monitor for the Police Athletic League, picking up timesheets. Right? That was my first summer job. And I went through the ranks of being in SYEP. I've been a payroll manager, so I know what it's like to manage payroll for 1,300 kids, all right? And figure out how to get resumes from 1,300 kids and evaluations from all the kids. Stay in this, believe you me, right? So get as much of it done this week, so next week you're not trying to do a whole lot of chasing down the young people. Or, like some people do, make up those documents. Don't do it. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, Melissa. All right. So artifact collection, really important. Let's get that done this week so we're not doing it next week. Does anybody need to go or want to see anything in particular on the website? Because if not, we really don't have to go to the website. It's a small group. But just a reminder, there are icebreakers there as well, and activities you can do and the facilitator's guide to help make sure you're continuing to do that relationship building stuff as well. Looking to the week ahead, what are we really talking about? You know, finalizing our projects. We should have already, if not, identified our audience, started getting those invitations out to folks so that they know about the things that are happening. And there's nothing better than young people having an audience to present in front of, especially if they've done all this work. It's much more meaningful for them when it's not a bunch of other teenagers looking back at them. So reach out to your organization, invite people from your organization, from your agency out to your things, document that as well. And send that stuff back to DYCD. They love to see that stuff. And we also like to see that stuff too. So if you want to send us pictures or projects and things like that, we love to see it as well. Really do appreciate that stuff. Like I said, know who your audience is going to be. Start doing that outreach now, connecting those folks to the project and getting them excited about coming out to see your young people. One of the things that we had the opportunity to do this year was to work with 3 groups kind of directly to support them over the course of this summer. And next Thursday, they will be doing an in-person presentation that will be broadcasted to a larger audience. So we will be letting you all know exactly what the information is behind that. DYCD will probably send something out to you as well. But really just letting you know that's something that's going to be happening next Thursday from 2 to 4. Okay. So if you still have young people around, if you're around, definitely be on the lookout for that event, because I think it'll be pretty good. Always remember and reminder that we're doing project-based learning as a career exploration kind of process in a career work readiness kind of space. So making sure that we're continuously connecting what we're doing to careers and career pathways, helping young people set goals, thinking about what their next steps will be, what skills will they need, really helping them develop that vision and thinking about the things that they've learned as they're going into this upcoming school year and how project-based learning has prepared them for this upcoming school year. One of the things that was great and that we always get the opportunity to do is focus groups at the end of the summer. We get to talk to young people, and young people that have done project-based learning have continuously said over and over again that they feel more prepared for the upcoming school year than their peers because of their experience in project-based learning. Right. So that's a testament to the work that you all are doing. And it also speaks to the fact that project-based learning really does help young people develop skills. And these are the skills we want them to walk away with, right? Making sure that young people feel motivated, self-aware, and have some level of persistence, right? A lot of that comes from having goals being set, right? And this is how we're talking about what are the next steps for your young people? What should they, if they come back next summer, where should they be by the start of next summer, right? Making sure you're setting those goals with them. Making sure that that over the next couple of weeks, that they've really, over the next week and a half or so, that they've really been practicing active listening, this notion of communicating effectively. And then when we're talking about this public product, right? This ability to persuade, change people's opinions, right? Really put forth an argument that really does speak to what they're really trying to convey in their program, in their projects. And last but not least, this shared sense of purposeness, the ability to delegate and organize people, right? That's a big part of project-based learning. And we really did hear that from young people, that they've learned how to delegate. They've learned how to work in groups, things that they don't necessarily practice in schools. So it's really important that they're working away with that skill set as well, right? And continuing to give them meaningful roles, and being clear that all your young people aren't going to be at this notion of shared leadership, but if you're able to take them from tasks and projects and move some of them into more higher structured leadership where they're giving you more input and consultation, that's what we want to do. We want to move the needle with our young people so that we're giving them skills so that they can move up and have more roles of leadership with not only in our programs, but also in school, in their communities, and in family. So last thing here, and then I'm going to stop talking. We're talking about group endings, right? What are we going to be really seeing over this next week and a half, right? And for some, just really thinking about it from the participant spectrum perspective, they're going to start to move apart from the group and regress back to some of the behaviors you observed in the beginning, right? And a lot of that's due to anxieties in the sense of like being non-committal to some extent, right? Like, oh, I don't know if I'm really ready for this, miss. A lot of that stuff's going to really start showing up again, right? So experiencing this range of motion from sadness to loss to anger, right? But sometimes to pride, hope, and a sense of accomplishment, right? Especially if things have gone very well and relationships have been built over the course of the summer. This fear of losing the support of you guys or the group, right? Some young people don't get this experience, not only in school, but in family. So sometimes this can be very scary to lose something that they don't realize how over the course of 6 weeks, especially if you've done a good job of developing relationships, what this might mean for them, right? Like I said, they'll regress to some of the things that they saw early on in that you thought they had previously mastered. Believe you me, they've still mastered them. They're just a little nervous. They want to do some of the things that they did earlier on in the summer. Some of those icebreakers, like we'll continue to say, they want to see those things and do those things again. They want to talk about changes that are taking place in themselves and in the group. So one of the things we always talk about is this notion of reflection and really making sure that we're giving young people that time to reflect on the growth of the group and for themselves as individuals. They want to continue meeting if the experience with the group was really a positive one, right? Never know. One of the things we've always talked about during our trainings is how are you communicating with young people outside of emails, right? Do you have group chats like on WhatsApp or GroupMe, right? Those young people might stay in those group chats, right? You should stay in those group chats and continue to engage with those young people over the course of the year. Hey, y'all, first day of school starting tomorrow. Good luck, right? You have no idea how far that goes, right? And then it continues. Hey, I know, because the thing is about these young people, they're all in the same age range. So they're all going through the same things in school, right? So their ability to continue to communicate and support each other over the course of the school year could be a really powerful tool as well put in place. Yeah, like I said, and some people might just quit, before the last day, just might not show up. Or just be really angry about the situation. So, they might not have gotten paid the way they thought they were going to get paid. So they out. You didn't give me all my hours. So why do I need to show up to this presentation next week? I don't need this bread. Peace, And then the other folks, especially folks that are your young people that are really high functioning, that are in a lot of activities, that are in a lot of groups, are like, this has been fun. This has been real, but I start, band camp next week, so peace, whatever it is that they might do. So they're out, right? And then you might be like, but I want to talk to you again, Shannon. And Shannon is like, yeah, I got this other program I'm starting, right? So just being clear that sometimes, no matter what the experience might have been, no matter how much you really enjoyed that young person enjoyed themselves, they're just on to the next thing, right? Don't feel bad about that. Right now, what are some of the things you guys should be thinking about? And how you should, like, some of the things you should be thinking about over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of days. Like I said, making sure you're giving ample advance notice. Hey, y'all, we only got 7 days of program left, right? If you got to put up a calendar that counts it down, don't be too excited about it because they're going to be like, oh, you're just trying to get rid of us, right? Don't be like, 6 days left. Yeah! All right, just be like, just a reminder that we need to do these things, right? Get these things done. Celebrating accomplishments, right? Really making sure that over the course of this next week and a half, at the end of each day, that we're celebrating what's happened, right? That keeps young people motivated, right? Being really excited about the progress we've made that day. Helping group capture learning, like I said, videos, pictures, all these other things that Mona was talking about as well. Evaluations of the group experience and anticipation of the group ending, right? Really having those opportunities to reflect on what happened and be okay with the things that didn't go well, right? Those are learning opportunities for you, right? Provide for individuals to express their own meanings of the experience, encourage the awareness of the endings in the mourning process, plan time to maximize the remaining sessions. Like I said, don't make them do those resumes right now. have them do it asynchronously, be really strategic in how we do that document collect, that artifact collection from them, without being over the top. Dennis, did you want to say something? I just saw you leaning, okay. Share observations of progress and confidence in members' ability to get along without the facilitator in the group, right? Just talk to the young people about the growth that they've done or that you've seen in them over the course of the summer. Even for adults, sometimes it's really hard for us to see the growth that we've made in ourselves, right? If other people aren't pointing it out to us. So making sure that not only you're doing it, but you give opportunities for peers to give it to each other as well. And planning for the future, right? Really making those referrals to other programs, services, and helping these young people transition on to the next phase, right? And giving them that support as you have those resources to do. And be aware of your own feelings, right? Be aware of your own feelings. Sometimes that can be the hardest part, that we've put so much into it and these kids are acting like they're not going to miss us. But I'm telling you, you know they're going to miss you. You know they're going to miss you, right? And it's okay if they're not showing that. But if you want to cry, shed a tear, it's okay.